Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video, but we're going to talk about comic shops and bankruptcy, Diamond's bankruptcy, and how it's going to affect the number of comic shops that are open. So here's a quick hint. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for comic shops. It's not going to be good for small press. I know a lot of people are trying to say it's too early to tell how Diamond going bankrupt is going to affect small press, but we did a video the other day talking about something Ben Dunn said on Facebook, and Ben Dunn is the CEO of, I believe, CEO of Antarctic Press. He's a publisher, and they've been doing this for a very long time, and he said, yeah, it's going to be catastrophic for small press because they're not going to get paid. He said it was going to be catastrophic for comic book shops. He said it was going to be catastrophic for small press, because Diamond holds the purse strings, right? Diamond, in a lot of ways, I don't know if people know this, but they actually sort of act as a bank, as a creditor for a lot of publishers and comic shops. I've said before that it really feels like Diamond is a McDonald's and comic shops are basically the franchisees, and everything kind of got upended during the pandemic when Diamond made the decision to not keep its doors open. And they wanted the comic book industry to basically hit pause and then to just resume as normal a few months later. But that didn't stop Marvel and DC. They have corporate owners they have to answer to. And they're like, yeah, we have to ship product. Sorry, we kind of like to keep our jobs. So they went with Lunar and Penguin Random House, and they'll be fine. But there might not be a lot of shops left to sell comics in. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Check this out. So IGN is actually covering this as well, which I'm surprised because IGN doesn't really talk about comics very much. But yeah, they're talking about the collapse of a comic book titan. They said it's bad news for an already troubled industry. They said at best, this bankruptcy represents a new challenge in an already bumpy time for comics. At worst, Diamond's fall could potentially upend the market and threaten publishers and comic shops alike. So yeah, it's not good. So they declared bankruptcy. This is it. And they go into detail, lots of other videos out there, lots of other information from other YouTubers out there about all of the drama, the fallout from Diamond deciding to hit pause during the pandemic. They closed a bunch of warehouses. They laid a bunch of people off. Penguin Random House actually bought Boom outright in 2024. Yeah, I forgot all about that. Actually, that was like a footnote. Like, oh yeah, I forgot Penguin bought them. So they said, now what? They said it's important to note that Diamond isn't necessarily going out of business. Not yet anyway. Chapter 11 protection is designed to do just that, protect the business as it seeks to right the ship, secure capital, and attempt to pay off creditors. Diamond certainly has quite a few creditors to whom it owes a considerable amount of money. Chief among those is Penguin Random House, $9.2 million. In the grand scheme of things, I mean, this just shows like how microscopic the comic book industry actually is compared to other entertainment industries, because $9.2 million would not make or break, like a video game company or a movie studio, you know what I'm saying? Streaming platform, tech company, whatever. They find that in the couch cushions. And even Penguin Random House, it's a pretty sizable entity. I mean, they're like, I don't even know how many big publishers we have now, but they're probably doing okay, right? So the $9.2 million that Diamond owes them is probably not the biggest debt that they have, but for comic books, that's a lot of money. In a letter addressed to comic book publishers and store owners, Diamond president Chuck Parker wrote, Chapter 11 will provide us with the opportunity to restructure, and they're already selling off divisions. I personally think this is Steve Geppi and friends, this is their exit strategy. They always ask you when you start a business, what's your exit strategy? And the exit strategy is usually sell the company off, pass it down, or sell it off. Very few people are like, you know what? We're just going to go out of business. That's what we're going to do. It's like, no, when you start a business, you're hoping that business will last as long as possible. Somebody else will find value in that business. And if you don't pass it to your kids or whatever, then you sell it off to somebody else. And there is no real exit strategy for Diamond, the entire company, but divisions of Diamond, parts of Diamond actually have some value. They said the hope is Diamond can continue to function as before and fulfill orders as it begins charting a more stable and sustainable future for itself. Good luck with that. Though again, the company was already showing clear signs of strain before the bankruptcy announcement. That is also true. Is there any reason to believe the chronic late deliveries won't continue in the near future? It's going to get so much worse, guys. We're going to talk about that. Will more comic shops drop Diamond out of fear of the company's reliability and long-term health? And what happens if Diamond isn't able to recover and move forward from bankruptcy? Well, again, a lot of comic shops, they think that, Diamond is kind of the end-all be-all. Now, I do know some shops, a lot of shops actually, that have stopped carrying new product altogether, and they carry mostly back issues. I mean, we've had several major retailers be like, hey, we can't sell the new comics. We can't sell the new stuff. But I like how they're just kind of downplaying it. I think this is a huge crisis, right? I mean, this is a massive crisis. And everybody's just kind of like, yeah, it's going to be okay. It's fine. Chapter 11's not that bad. Yeah. A 450 credit score is not that bad. It's all right. You'll get back into the 500s soon enough. How many comic store closures will the Diamond bankruptcy cause? This come from Bleeding Cool, which is like the only, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but they're like the only objective, legit comic book news source out there now, which is wild because Rich Johnston was known for years as a rumor monger, and he still does monger those rumors, right? But compared to their competition, they're about the only ones who are giving it to you straight. I'm serious. I can't believe I'm saying that, but here's where we're at. This is where we're at. Basically, Rich Johnston went from being a rumor monger to the last comic book journo standing in I guess in an industry of, there's like 3 options now. Like everybody's folded their blogs, but like Bleeding Cool actually is a quasi legit news site. It's so damn weird to hear myself say that. Comics Beat is basically a hobby, I think, at this point. And Heidi McDonald is very, very biased. And Rich Johnston obviously has his political opinions as well, but he does deliver the news. Heidi's basically, it's just a mommy blog about comics, and her friends and what her friends are doing. So this is wild. And then we do have some right-wing comic sites too, but they only talk about the bad news usually. I'm going to be honest. Not saying that people shouldn't cover that stuff, but like, it's not like, hey, this book was pretty good or that book's pretty good, or here's an objective interview with a creator. There's always a political bent to it. So anyway, this is Adam Freeman began his career in the comics industry as the co-owner of Brave New World comic store. So I guess he's the one who's writing this, right? And this is what he said. This is what he said about the bankruptcy. This might lead to the biggest round of store closures in decades. Not because of the doomsday scenarios I keep hearing, but many of them have been holding on to their diamond-only workflow. Yep, which has already cost them one holiday season. Most of these stores are older. The owners are nearing retirement age. So it seems reasonable to believe that some key staff members are about to get a good deal on buying their shop, or their competitors are going to get a chance to grow. Yeah, that's it too. The comic book industry right now, shop owners, they're older people for the most part. If it's a comic shop. Now, game stores, trading card stores, video game stores, retro stores, they tend to have younger owners. But as far as shops that are what I would historically call, or strictly a comic book shop, the owners are older, and most of them are. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, basically, the comic book industry, I'm going to be honest, the comic book industry is geriatric all across the board. The people making the comics, the people buying the comics, and the people selling the comics. They tried to get kids. The kids went for manga. They went for graphic novels, or they just don't read comics at all. And that's the truth of it. That's where we're at. So it's a very geriatric industry, and a lot of people are just retiring. That's why I think might be part of the motivation behind the Chapter 11 and selling off divisions is this is Jeppy's exit strategy. I'm too old for this shit. It's not going to get better. I'm noping out. Most larger stores won't feel this at all. Number 2, the bulk of their volume is already coming from Lunar, Penguin Random House, and direct suppliers. That is true. Your Marvel and your DC are coming from other suppliers, and you can do without God, I don't even know what companies are in business now, what Black Mask or whatever. Like, you can do without your Black Mask books. It's not going to make or break your shop. But if you can't get an Amazing Spider-Man in, or a Batman, or an Absolute Batman in, then yeah, you're going to be hurting, right? You're about to see a lot of coalition building. Tiny publishers are going to buy each other out or try to image together themselves to weather the storm. Some new innovators are likely to step into the field. Yeah, I think crowdfunding is going to be more important. I think direct to consumer is going to be more important. And a lot of people that were making fun of those who relied on crowdfunding and direct to consumer are going to be eating a lot of crow, because that's where things are going. Number 4, I'm rooting for Diamond to come out of this. We need them as an industry. It will be very difficult to replace them. I want my friends there to continue to serve our industry in the way they've proven they can, but it's time to stop thinking of Diamond as the public utility of comics. Yeah, again, for a lot of people, Diamond isn't just the distributor. They're also a bank, right? Like, these shops feel like they're franchise owners, and these publishers feel like they're just producing product. Like, you're the guy who makes the ketchup for McDonald's. Okay, you're the guy who makes these niche books for Diamond to sell to these comic shops. That's how it's worked historically. I mean, and I know there are publishers out there that were being floated loans and all that stuff by Steve Geppi himself. So yeah, it definitely is. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt small press big time. They said new providers need to step in for all the other services that they've always provided. I don't think they're going. What incentive is there? New publications and platforms need to step in to actually sell comics to consumers. Again, why do we need a middleman if that is the case? If you're selling direct to consumer and you've got Amazon, why do you even need Diamond? Why do you even need comic shops? And it's a horrible thing to say, isn't it? It's a horrible thing to say, but from the consumer's point of view, if you can buy all the comic books and graphic novels you want through Amazon or through eBay or whatever, why do you need to go to a brick and mortar store? Why do you need to go to the vinyl shop? Other than it's fun to go to the vinyl shop and go through all the old albums. I get it. I love it. I do that myself. I love it. I love going to record stores. But not everybody does. Some people are like, oh, I want the new Energon Universe book. So I'm just going to get the trade paperback. I'm going to have it shipped to me on Amazon, and that's it. That's it. I don't want to drive a half an hour to go to the comic shop. You know, the real losers in this are small publishers and those that depend on them. No matter what happens with Diamond, it's going to take a while before business as usual is an option. So those publishers who have a day job and a dream are going to find a difficult path to market. So if Lunar can physically grow to accommodate them, or Diamond works their way out, it will be too long for some of them before that is the case. If you're only selling a couple hundred copies of a book, that's not sustainable. You know, that's not sustainable. And it's not really worth it for a company like Lunar to even, I mean, Diamond even had thresholds. Like, we can't carry your stuff if you're only going to sell 50 copies of it. It doesn't even pay for itself. We don't even have the warehouse space. You know, you're going to sell 50 copies of your book. You got 2,000 copies of it eating up our floor space, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? That means these mom and pop publishers won't be buying sponsorships at Comics Pros meetings or showing up to Read Pop's event days. No, they will not. Actually, very few publishers go to conventions at all now. I mean, there are some at the more comic focused ones, but it used to be that I remember Marvel and DC even used to put in an appearance at the Pittsburgh shows, and they don't bother. None of these big publishers bother. I think Baltimore and C2E2, but for the most part, they don't even bother, because what benefit is there? I mean, it used to be that you put in an appearance because that's where all the networking was, and that's where you build the buzz for your product. And now you do that online. Hell, Nintendo stopped going to events. They have their own online event. Same with Sony, in the video game space. And that eliminated the need for an E3. So I'm even looking at this like, do we even need comic book conventions? Again, I feel horrible saying it, but do we need comic shops and do we need comic book conventions anymore? No, we do not. We do not. And once this generation of consumers decides that they don't want to patronize either anymore, that it's inconvenient or whatever, for whatever reason, then that's it. The comic shops go out, the conventions probably go under. I mean, comic book publishers were never really the backbone of the modern convention scene. It's been a long time since comic books have been the backbone. It's mostly nerd kitsch and shit and bootleg merchandise and walls of posters. And now, you know what I'm saying? So it's everything's going to change. So it's about to get real expensive and difficult to buy the Lunar Crew dinner at conventions. So schedule those early and often. Yeah, a lot of big publishers or bigger publishers that are going to jump ship to another distributor. But again, where does that leave small press? You know, you're out in the cold at this point. I don't know. It's a huge question mark, and I'm going to be, I'll say it. We don't talk much about it. We own a shop, and we are a publisher. So for us, we're looking at this like, well, our lease is up. Yeah, it might be time. It might be time to nope out. There's really, I personally don't see much of a future in it. I don't know. What do you guys think? I know a lot of people are delighted that Diamond's going out, but there are going to be a lot of people that are going to hurt from this for sure, and they had nothing to do necessarily with the decline of the comic book industry or the decline in the quality of the comic book industry. They just wanted to make a living. They kept their heads down, and this is where we're at. So I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.